Jellicos is an AWS advanced tier consulting partner, and just recently we gained our competency for Microsoft Workloads. And that's a pretty big deal for us as a company, but what it really means for our customers is they have a trusted partner who they can use to move Windows workloads into AWS just based on the productivity, scalability, security, and the above that can bring value to their organization. We've been talking with Azure customers recently about performance and reliability, and interestingly enough, Gartner had an article in December of 2018 that talked specifically about the availability of Azure versus AWS, and Azure is 45 times more likely to have a performance issue than AWS. And I think it's really a model issue where Azure has regions of data centers, but AWS has regions and then availability zones within those regions, so customers can fall back to other availability zones if there's a problem, whereas we have a very specific customer that had an outage and was out of business for 5 days because their Azure region went down. The process we typically follow with customers is pretty straightforward. A lot of times customers have some pretty good ideas of what they want to accomplish from a business and technology perspective, but we use tools like MoveAir and TSO Logic to help us get a better understanding of what the customer's environment looks like, what the performance looks like, and in a lot of cases the output from those tools gives us a really good cost model that we can lay against what a customer's current Azure bill looks like. And in most cases, there's a pretty significant cost savings for customers to move from Azure to AWS. And in most cases, it revolves around storage, the storage tiers within AWS, and how cheap they are and how inexpensive they are for customers to store their data. Once we've helped customers identify the business case to move from Azure to AWS, the methodology is pretty straightforward. We actually set up an AWS landing zone, which is called our Jellicos Jumpstart, which is a series of best practices from an AWS landing zone perspective, built solely around the CIS benchmarks. And what we try to do there is really establish a corporate footprint from an AWS perspective. Once that's done, we have a very clear migration path that comes out of that tool deployment that I talked about. And that gives us all of the candidates and systems that need to be moved from Azure to AWS. So we deploy our migration factory teams to actually go do the undifferentiated heavy lifting for our customers so that their people can focus on running their day-to-day, and our team is focused on moving them from Azure to AWS. Once customers have migrated from Azure to AWS, our team takes over from a cloud ops perspective, and that's really our managed services offering and support that we can provide to our customers that allows them to rely on us and our resources to manage their AWS environment. In addition, there are so many different funding vehicles that AWS has available for those customers if they're migrating from Azure to AWS. And that is really helpful because you try to minimize the amount of migration bubble that exists for customers moving from one cloud to the other. And with these funding programs, it allows those customers to see a little bit less in terms of migration cost, but definitely a quicker return on investment.